Morning everyone, my name's Matt, you're watching Everest Offroad WA. I've just packed up my camp for the night and ready to head off and meet up with a mate of mine and do some tracks out here in the Collie area. But before I do that, I thought I'd just do a little rig rundown of the Everest. I figured we'd probably start at the front and then work our way to the back of the car, go through all the things that I've added on just to make it a bit more off-road capable, but still it's a daily driver, so it's all done in a subtle way. Now, I'm definitely not sponsored by any of the stuff I have on my car. I've forked out the money and I really live by the buy once, cry once method. So I have put some expensive stuff on here, but it was to make sure that it stood the test and it was good quality. So at the front, you'll see I've got a nice bull bar. Now, this is the Hamer King Series Plus. I think these bull bars look awesome. They really follow the lines of the car. Did go with the triple hooped instead of the hoopless. I figured, you know, you have a bull bar for protection. The hoopless bar, even though they look great, you hit a roo, it's gonna, you know, take your grill out, take your bonnet out, take your lights out. So having the triple hoop just for that extra security, well worth it in my opinion. You know, it's a full steel bar, and even those full hoops, it's not a lot of extra weight. Now, this is a winch compatible bar, which was great. So I do have a winch in there, but we'll get to that in a minute. The thing with the Hamer, it's got the tech pack in it for all the forward sensors. So you've got side sensors, you've got your adaptive cruise sensor in the front there. That is meant to have a little piece of perspex covering it, so it's not so ugly. But I unfortunately broke that while I was pulling the winch in and out. But I think the way that it follows the grill, the center posts aren't directly in the middle. They really wrap the grill nicely, and then the side hoops nice and round, and they follow the lights really well. One of the big things I like about this is how snug it is up to the front of the car. Now, some might say, well, it's closer to the bonnet, you know, it's not going to absorb the impact as much, you're still going to get damage. That might be true, but being full steel, at least, you know, it's solid. But unlike some of the other bars out there where you've got a big front patio, I really like how it hugs it nicely. It's really sleek, and it's a full replacement bar. A lot of the others you've got to cut the original bumper, but this one full replacement. They just slot in a bit of steel there under the light. Now, it does have a couple of toe points on the front, and it also has toe points underneath, but I've changed the ones underneath for rated recovery points. So it has a bash plate as well. Pay extra for it, but bash plate to the front. You can get a full set all the way under. I haven't gone for that. We've still got the Ford skid plates. Once I sort of destroy those, I'll probably look at getting a full set underneath. The only thing I wish some manufacturers out there of bash plates, if they did a tank bash plate, plenty of stuff for the Ranger, the Raptors, nothing for an Everest. The tank mounting is slightly different, so they don't you know, cross over, which is annoying. I have destroyed my fuel tank plastic guard, so I am on the hunt for a new tank bash plate. Moving on to the winch. So I run a 12,000 pound Dominator just behind this flip up license plate. You know, don't want to bend your number plates when you're going through the water. The Dominator's been good so far. I have serviced it and put in some newer grease and that, you know, just to make it a little more reliable. Probably look at servicing it every year. It does get used a bit, you know, saving people, and I have saved myself a couple of times. But you're probably asking, well, where's the control box? It's not on the front. Where have you put it? So I've chucked my control box up under the grill and just under the top plastic shroud there, just to keep that nice neat look. That's why I don't have any spotlights on there. I have used 7-core trailer wire for my plug, because, you know, how are you going to plug into your control box if it's not there? Where do you access it? So I've used a 7-core. I've run the plug into my glove box. Now, it is wireless, but in case that fails, I still don't have to get out of the car to plug it in. Just into the glove box. There she goes, manual winching. I use the 7-core because that way it future-proofs me a little bit. We can tap into those wires if I ever want to put any lights on the front. Now, that's pretty much all for just the front there. Alright, under the bonnet now. This is my on-off switch for my winch. I've just tried to tuck that in nicely with the plastic shroud. My controller box is under here, all tucked away. Got a 70 amp circuit breaker for my second battery, which is in the boot. There's no room under here to put one under the bonnet, so that's in the back of the car. The only other thing that I've done under here is a catch can and second fuel filter. I really believe in catch cans. I think they do a great job at stopping all that oil and water going into your engine. No one wants that at all. In terms of that, like tuning, haven't done a tune to it. It's still stock. The only thing that I would probably like to do soon is a transcooler and maybe tune it for towing. I do tow a little trailer, so a transcooler will make a big difference, especially on the sand. These 10 speeds do warm up quite a bit on the sand. On the road, they're not that bad, but it can never hurt having a transcooler, keep those temps down. And yeah, just a towing tune, just for a bit more efficiency, you know, not chew through as much juice, and just have it run nice and protected, so it's not working too hard. And that's pretty much under the bonnet. I've swapped out my standard paper filter just for a K&N, you know, reusable, easier to clean. If it gets a lot of dust in it, just pull it out, spray it with a bit of compressed air. But yeah, it's still pretty stock under here, and it's done a great job so far. Alright, we'll make our way to the side of the car and I'll show you some stuff there. Righto, just got a safari snorkel, give me a bit more wading depth, you know, just the old plastic. Could have gone with the stainless, they do look pretty cool, but I know that I'll probably end up putting this thing on its side and put a big dent in it, which will be a little upsetting. So just the plastic. Also, if anyone has looked at Everest before, the Sport in particular comes with 20-inch rims and highway terrain tyres. Now, why call it a Sport and then put highway tyres on it, 20-inch rims? The titanium comes with 20-inch rims, but doesn't even have a 20-inch spare, so this is 20s all around, which is kind of weird. But we changed those out for some 18-inch rims off a Ranger. Exactly the same offset, they just go straight on. The only thing I changed was put some bigger all-terrains on. Went with the all-terrains because, again, this is daily. You know, it does plenty for the highway and good off-road. I've got a 285 65 18 tyre on there. In the old scale, it's about 32.6. Still within legal limits. I don't have any poke on those tyres at all. I'm not a big fan of flares. I had a bit of a brain fart there. So that's also the biggest tyre I've found you can fit in your spare wheel well under the car, fully inflated. You can squeeze a 33-inch in there if you deflate it and really tuck it up as much as you can. So that's it for tyres. These ones probably done maybe about 50,000 Ks, still going strong. It is lifted. We've got a 2-inch lift all round, just some fulcrum suspension. I went with 0 to 100 kilo springs in the rear. Didn't want to stiffen it up too much, but I do have the airbags in the back there just to counteract that ball weight when I'm towing. So far, it's pretty new. Suspension was the last thing I put on this car, so still sort of working it in, but so far it's been a nice comfy ride. And just having the 2-inch, it sits nicely. I think it gives it a good look and gets me off the ground a bit more, hence why the fuel tank guard is gone. You might also notice I don't have the standard side steps anymore. Again, plastic, they got wrecked, so we've chucked some rock sliders on there. I went with the Legend X rock sliders. Not only do I think they look awesome, super tough, they were expensive. I could have definitely got some cheaper ones, but I think these look great. I love the angle. Then they're not over the top, but they do hug the car really nicely, but still give you a lot of footprint, you know, for the kids and the wife getting in and out, and plenty of footprint for me to get stuff up on the roof. The only thing that I really didn't like about this was installing it. Unlike a lot of the other rock sliders out there that have a nice C channel to go up on your chassis rail, this has an L bracket, L-shaped bracket, and you have a nut on a piece of metal that you have to feed through the chassis rail and try and line it up with the bolt holes, and that was a nightmare. Horrible. That's my only gripe, but definitely super tough now that they're on. But yeah, I still think they look great, especially with the kick out, you know, just to keep you away from the sides a bit. And that's pretty much all on the bottom half. As we move up, I do have a front runner slimline rack. I went with the front runner. It's probably the most expensive out of the options you can get, but the fact that the weight rating didn't change when off-road to on-road, you know, some of the others, oh, you got to reduce 30%. Front runner was, no, whatever your roof can handle is what you can use on the dirt or on the blacktop. So that was a big deciding factor for me. Also, it's super light, you know, aluminium, it's about 30 kilos all up. Weight on this car was a big factor. GVM upgrades, there's only one that you can get for these cars, and it is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. So whether you can weigh up the options that it's worth it or not, but I've definitely tried to keep this car as light as I can to stay within GVM. So we've got the front runner rack, few accessories up there. Got 2.1 dB aerial on a swivel mount. I found even when it lays down, I never put it up. I always just leave it down, but the range is really good, especially being up on the roof. Get a couple of Ks out of it, out on the highway, plenty of distance out here in the bush. And yeah, just stays flat like that. Maxtrax holders, just bolted up there. I did have a box on the roof which carried a lot of my tools and compressor, and had my Maxtrax on top of that, but I found, you know, big box, big windbreak, and it's heavy, so we got rid of that. Next to that, just the shower awning. I didn't think I'd use this as much as I do. It's definitely handy when you got the kids and they're covered in sand and mud and every sort of thing. You just throw them in there, hose them off, and just get them clean before they get in. On the other side, I've got just a PVC tube. That's my rod tube. Do love my fishing. And then we've got a 180 Darch awning. Now, I went with the Darch because they are, you know, they got good reviews. The only thing I don't like about it is the canvas has definitely sagged quite a bit, and it's really hard to get it nice and taut, so water does pool up in it, and then that sags it even more. But definitely strong in, you know, no windy conditions. It'll freestand perfectly fine. It does have the legs to put down if you need to tie it down. I have had this when we're down in Esperance. It flipped up almost 90 degrees, didn't snap, and I just pulled it back down, and she's still good. So that's a bit of a testament to the quality. But yeah, just that canvas sagging is it's a bit frustrating. I might look at changing out the awning later on. The only reason I went with a 180 instead of a 270 is obviously Fords have a lift up tailgate. Now with most 270s, that last pole goes crossways, you know, across the corner of the car. Tailgate lifts up, it's going to be resting on it or hitting it. There is now a couple of models out that have a straight across rear pole, so the tailgate will lift up into the canvas. That's it's definitely something I'm looking into. Moving along, we'll go to the back of the car. Now, the rear of the car, pretty simple setup. I have thought about getting a rear bar. Again, they're very expensive. There's not a lot of options for the Ford, and it's a lot of extra weight that might be unnecessary, but having the spare wheel on the back, you know, jerry can holder, getting it out from under the car is a tempting sort of notion. These rear bumpers do sit quite low, and they've got a nice little scoop angle at the bottom. So I have pulled this off once or twice, and yeah, it's like a big shovel. It's not great. So that's something I'm looking into. Pretty simple setup. I've just gone with a drawer and fridge on one side. I've kept one side empty with the sixth seat, only because in case we used it, and it's also where my very large dog goes when we take him to the vet. So need to keep that space open. This is all DIY. I've built myself an L-shaped false floor, removed the seventh seat, and then built this drawer and fridge situation here. I went with the drawer fridge just because I reckon it's great on weekenders, day trips, overnighters. It's only 30 litres, but it definitely holds plenty, and everything's just so much more accessible. If I wanted to have a drawer plus a slide out fridge on top, you know, that fridge would be touching the roof, and then how am I going to get stuff? It's just impractical. So little 30 litre drawer fridge, it's definitely been great, even though the brand that's on there, I haven't had any problems with it, and they do come with a 5-year warranty, which I figured if it died in that time, I'll just get another one. But yeah, it's been really good. Chews near no power. And talking about power, under this little false floor here, I've got a 50 amp hour lithium tucked in there. 50 amp hour, it's not huge, but it's more than enough just for this fridge and a couple of little charging points. There's a DC-DC charger under the false floor, so this being a daily driver, it's constantly on charge. It's, you know, never goes flat. There's no solar hooked up to this car at all. I do have a solar input on my trailer plug there in case, you know, I'm out and about for a bit longer, but that's been really good. One thing I have found, unfortunately, the DC-DC got unplugged one morning, and the missus asked me, "Did you turn the fridge off?" I went, "No." So I came out, had a look, and the battery had run out of charge and gone into safe mode. But luckily, the car, once I plugged it back in, the car charged it up fine. She was a bit sluggish in the morning, but still started. So it's good to see that the car will completely recharge that battery out of safe mode and still be fine the next day. That's a good tip to know in case, you know, you get stuck out there somewhere and unplug your battery by accident. Built the drawer, so full-size drawer, locking slides. I have disabled one of those locking tabs just to make it easier to pull in and out with one hand. Basically, got this little lift-up table. I didn't want to have another slide out for another table at the end. Thought it'd be too long, and I wanted to make this drawer as deep as I could. So this is definitely not an original idea. It's not my idea, but putting a breadboard on top like that, just on some hinges, sits flush. I think that's a really cool way to do it, and allows you to access all this. So in terms of what I carry around, front pockets, basically my kitchen stuff, you know, cooker, gas, utensils, a bit of, you know, toilet paper and party lights for the kids. So that's all kitchen. In the middle is pretty much my recovery gear, some pegs and tie downs, axe, and then the rear is anything to do with tyres. So we got the jack, compressor, shovel, tyre repair kit, all that kind of stuff. Now, ironically, my tool drawer, the only thing it can't carry is my tools, only because the compressor takes up so much space. I am looking and thinking about mounting a compressor maybe in that pocket right next to the battery. I think just freeing up this area will be really cool, and I can put the outlet for that just on that panel. So that's definitely an option I'm looking into. Mounted compressor would be pretty nice. But yeah, so nice and easy just to lock into place. Just a couple of SIG points for charging USB. Those are my points for inflating my airbags. I did have them under the floor before I built this setup, so they obviously had to get moved. Now I've put them in here, they're tucked away, they can't be damaged. A lot of people have them down at the bottom of their bumper, but I figured I'd probably end up ripping them off. So yeah, it's a nice little spot for them. A little hatch for basically, you know, your general car stuff, your jumper cables, your bits of rope, some recovery gear in there, and access point to lower my spare tyre. And that's basically everything about the car, really. Again, I tried to keep it as subtle as I can and not make it too over the top, only because, yeah, it's still got to be driven around. It's still got to pick the kids up from school, get the shopping, all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely one capable vehicle. I think all the stuff I've chucked on there so far complements it really well. Has done a really good job. So yeah, but that's the rundown of the car. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Any comments, any questions you have, chuck them down below and I'll answer them.